What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Tooth and Tail Premier League Grand Finals. I'm your host, Delthius. How's it going, everybody? I am doing great. Let me move these nameplates here to the opposite sides. Nice, awesome nameplates, courtesy of Meek here. So this is really exciting. I'm super hyped. Melvin versus Meek is going to be a great matchup here. Kind of a clash of styles, in my opinion. You know, I always expect Meek to do something a little bit crazy, a little bonkers, likes to be aggressive. You never know exactly what he's going to throw at you. I think Meek is one of the players that popularized the triple tier 3 style. And meanwhile, Melvin is kind of the other type of player that I talk about a lot, who typically uses the same kind of style in most matches. He likes his snakes, he likes his owl setup. So I'm curious if he will be changing things up. This is not a best of 3, it's a best of 7. I am all over the place. This overlay is unacceptable here. Let me let me change it up. Here we go. We've got Meek in the house. I'm not gonna ramble on too much about these players here, but it's good to be back. I know I haven't been streaming a lot lately. I've been very busy in my real life, but looking to get back into it, and I'm really excited and glad to have the opportunity to cast the grand finals today. I mean, these players really went through the gauntlet to get here. You know, the Premier League groups were very stacked, and the format this time around was like a GSL style group stage where Meek had to fight through guys like Necromanticer, James, and Nightslayer. Melvinfro had a very stacked group with Kipo and the Gentleman and Jacoby in it, and it's really sweet. I'm excited to see how these players end up going. We got USA versus France here. Both players very young. I did not realize how young Melvin is. He's only 16 and one of the best players in Tooth and Tail. Obviously, here he is in the grand finals of the Premier League Championship. And you all are not here to listen to me ramble on. You're here to listen or to watch some awesome Tooth and Tail matches. So I just gave the go-ahead to get started here to the players, and let's get into this. This is going to be very good. I do need to update my YouTube, so I will do that later today after the Clan Wars final, which we got coming up in a couple hours. So here we go, game number 1, coming in hot. Let's see what these players opt in to go for. Melvin actually changing things up here. Ooh, we got Wolf Fox out of Meek in game number 1. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, spotting in the bottom, we've got Meek. And up top, his opponent, Melvinfro. Melvin participated on my team in the Clan Wars, Clan P-Boop, so kind of exciting. I don't know who to root for here. I know both these players very well. I enjoy playing against them. They're both awesome and very active in the competitive scene. So this is simply a treat here to cast. We've got Toads from both sides. And let's see how these players are going to evolve. So actually very aggressive opening from Meek, to be expected, but Melvin actually opens up with a 5-farm Warren as well. Most likely just kind of anticipating the aggression that will most likely come out from Meek. So Melvin is going to be happy that he wound up getting that early Squirrel Warren. Comes in for the check, does realize it is a double. Meek is going to respect that, put down his own double as well. And this is a nice map for aggression. It's pretty small rush distance here, so that's exactly what Meek is looking for. He's trying to get some early game damage, but Melvin is on top of it. Meek is going to have to go back home for now. Everyone in the chat saying best of... I think it's best of 7, Mocha. Is that right? Do I have it wrong? Okay. I think they're memeing. Best of 9 is kind of a memeing thing in the scene here. So let's see where the game goes from here. Again, very smart. I don't feel like Melvin wanted to do the 5-farm opening. He just understands that Meek is very aggressive, tends to do this most games, especially on a small map. So it's actually just kind of a defensive posture. And way back in the day of like 2017, 2018, you would see players do that quite often. You know, the 5-farm Warren opening was a little bit more standard actually than just going straight up to 8 farms. So we do get up to 8 farms and a double here from both sides. Getting into some expansions. Let's take a quick peek at the map. I mean, honestly, I feel like I like it better for Melvin here. But not by a whole lot. I mean, Meek is pretty okay. He's got 4 bases over here, nice and tight. Getting that tier 2 Warren up and rolling. Chameleons coming out for Meek. And I'm not sure exactly the relationship with Chameleons and Toads these days. Maybe you want to use those Chameleons to tank the Toad hits for your tier 1. Or maybe it's vice versa. Maybe you want the Chameleons to stay alive. It's like, yeah, my tier 1 dies, but I still got those cams here. Okay, so we're transitioning a little bit into a macro game. Both sides just kind of continuing up with the scouting, getting into their tier 2, getting into their second base farming. But very respectful from both sides. Meek is going to move out. The Toads clash. I think that Toad trade actually favored Melvin a little bit, as the Toads basically traded with Meek's Toad, but also got some damage on the cams. Meek does end up getting a Warren, though, which is pretty important. However, losing that tier 2 is a pretty big deal. I think I'd rather be on Meek's side. I mean, a Warren is only, 10 seconds to build. Chameleon is 20. So yeah, so nice little move out here from Meek, just continuing to try to apply pressure, but really a no harm, no foul situation. I think I like that trade a little bit better for Melvin, but it wasn't game ending or anything like that. It still feels pretty even here. Melvin trying to get into that double tier 2. I love the fact that Meek is running Wolf Fox, but will we actually see it this game? I don't think so. Here comes Meek again, trying to push in, get some better toe connections this time around. His Chameleons are getting on top of the Warrens. The Falcon in the air is doing a ton of damage, a healing from these pigeons, really stopping the damage coming in from the squirrels. Meek has to back up, but that time around, I feel like it did a little bit better. You know, again, Meek trading some units, actually keeping the cams alive this time around, and knocking out some Warrens in the process. So, Meek should probably be feeling pretty good here. Okay, the Fox Warren is down. Yeah, I should probably move that over. And Melvin needs to get the scout on that Fox. He actually does not have very many good units against the Fox at the moment. Like, the Wolf would be pretty good. Kind of speed up the units, but Melvin actually hasn't been able to get in and scout for quite some time. I think he's worried about every time he tries to go in, Meek just rallies his units forward. Melvin does have the cams a little bit forward. I wonder if that is actually to tank the Toad hits. But the Fox is almost finished building. Yeah, I did leave the score up on accident. I apologize. Thanks for calling that out on the chat. Not the score, the player overlays. I am on a little bit of a delay here just to make sure everything is nice and fair for the players. So, I guess by the time I'm saying this now, the overlay would be gone. But the Fox is being built, and Melvin still hasn't scouted it. I would love to see the first match here end with a Fox, my personal favorite unit. Lots and lots of tier 1 from Meek. Oh, this would be a good time for Melvin to move out, but he's still not quite sure. He's being very, very careful here. He's actually gotten quite ahead on farms. But he doesn't have good anti-Fox repellent right now on the field. I feel like in the hands of a good player like Meek, this Fox will be able to dominate in this fight coming in here. And here's the Fox, so Meek, let's see if he's wasting any time or if he's going to go immediately. He's starting to rally with the Fox. Melvin now knows about the Fox, starts trying to target down, but goes for the big engagement. Meek over on the side, micro in the Fox. Melvin moving in. Is that a dead Fox? Oh my god, 4 HP. And Meek's army slaughtering there as Melvin tries to hard focus the Fox, ignoring the kind of bread and butter of the rest of the units here. And this might be our game number 1. Meek winning on the back of a nicely placed Fox Warren, keeping that aggression up the entire time, not giving Melvin the opportunity to move out of the base and scout and try to find that Fox as he needed to. Alright, so nice quick victory here for Meek in game number 1. let's see what these players decide to go for. In the second match here, looks like Melvin is going to use the same deck. Okay, spawning on the left-hand side from France, we've got Melvinfro, and his opponent up top from United States of America, we've got Meek. Alright, this is a pretty large map this time around. So, let's see how the players are going to evolve from here. Meek actually changing things up, and this is kind of what I expected out of these players. Like, I feel like Melvin is what I call a holy grail player who searches for, like, the best deck, you know, for the current meta, and really tries to utilize that quite effectively. You know, guys like Airlu or this guy come to mind when I think about players like that have had a lot of success. Meanwhile, Meek is somebody who likes to change it up, and not changing it up significantly. Like, still has that Squirrel Toad Cam core, but getting the boar this time around. Of course, no wolf or fox. Meanwhile, Melvin still does have that wolf. And of course, the wolf's favorite tier 2, the chameleons and falcons here. So let's see how this one is going to roll out. 8 farm single from both sides so far. Nice and big map, so I anticipate this might just be a greed war. You know, quick second bases from both sides. And then kind of scouting, seeing how many farms your opponent builds on the second. And trying to stay just a few farms ahead of that. So Melvin knows it is nice and safe to go up onto a second base on a single Warren here. They're going to continue the scouting. So both sides scouting quite nicely so far. This map does tend to favor Melvin. I feel like Melvin will have the easier time of kind of capturing this area over here, but I don't know, there's a little bit of awkward ramping. It's not impossible for Meek to kind of come down from this angle and try to secure this. So, you know, now that I'm thinking about this map a little bit more, maybe it is a little bit more even. Like, I don't like this third base from Meek, you know, on the low ground here, with the water kind of on the wrong side. If this water was on the front, it would be a little bit more defensive, but this water is just going to slow Meek's units down from the main, trying to defend that third. Meanwhile, Melvin's third seems to be a bit better. I mean, Meek could try to do something cheeky, like bring the army through this way to attack, but I'd be more worried about that with lizards or something. You know, trying to squeeze the entire army through that little choke would create a concave versus convex scenario, which you don't really want. So maybe this is more of a situation where both players kind of have 3 bases, and then if the game gets really, really long, they might end up just fighting over this area, and whoever has that map positional advantage would end up taking the game. Alright, so looks like Melvin and Meek are both kind of moving out with some cams here, trying to find some damage. Where is Meek's cam actually rallied to? It's going to rally all the way down here. I like that a little bit better. Melvin is moving in. He's going to get the Warren and a pig. Very nicely done here. Going to try to escape with this chameleon. Meek can utilize that stealth reveal, however, and if Melvin's commander goes down, it's not going to be good. Melvin is stuck on the other side of the map with these cams, desperately trying to get out, and I think he actually threaded the needle there. Really, really nicely done. I was worried when his commanders started moving this way, the commander would just straight up die. But wow, quite nice, and even Meek panicking a bit, you know, hitting that rally all button and moving his chameleons out of position for the harassment. So Melvin ended up getting a Warren and a farm there for free, and decides now is the time to transition to Wolf. Meek does see that wolf, and again, his chameleon harassment gets denied just because he needs to go home and desperately get into his own tier 3. Now the question is, how many tier 2 can Melvin start stacking? With the wolf, you want as many tier 2 as possible. You want to kind of go down a little bit on tier 1, or at the very least, try to wiggle your units around to ensure that that wolf buff gets on those tier 2s that you need it on. Third base coming out here from Meek. But I think this is still okay for Meek. I like this idea a lot. You know, getting ahead on the third base. Melvin is not going to move out until the wolf is on the board. And, a bit risky because he is investing a lot more into eco when he knows an attack is probably coming soon. I don't know, actually. With Wolf, you don't necessarily need to move out right when you get it, like with a boar or a badger or something like that. I mean, a lot of time players do opt to just kind of stay at home with the wolf, buff up the farms, increase the production rate of the warrens. So yeah, I like this from Meek. He's a little bit behind. He gets ahead in the economy. He's got his own boar going. He's got the snakes. He's going to have to focus on microing the snakes on the next big engagement. Okay, but Melvin is not wasting any time. This is what I was a little bit worried about. Meek, investing all that money into the farms here. He does get the boar, but is he going to have enough raw units? It looks like the army value graph is actually pretty relatively even here. This is going to come down to micro. Trying to hit this boar, trying to kill the wolf. The boar goes down and takes a ton of units with it, but is the wolf buff enough? No, it doesn't look like it. Meek cleaning up that army. That boar explosion was absolutely brutal for Melvin. It hit like all of his units. And Melvin has to go back home with his tail between the legs, looking for how he's going to continue this on, looking for what the next play is going to be. Needs to get that third base up and running, but Meek is now miles ahead. Melvin at the very least needed to trade efficiently, needed to deny some of these third base farms, but neither one of those happened. That boar explosion was absolutely insane. My cat's got the zoomies. I don't know if y'all can hear it. Running around. I think she senses my energy. So, now she wants to play. And again, these three bases over here I was talking about earlier on, Meek is starting to claim that on the back of having the better map advantage here from that previous engagement. And this is starting to go from bad to worst for Melvin. He's behind on armies, behind on economy, desperately trying to get this third base back up and running, or up and running in the first place, I should say. But Meek, at the same time, is working on the fourth base. So Melvin really needs a big cost-effective trade to get back into this. But look at the army from Meek here. Snakes, cams, falcons, all in the fours. Melvin still trying to do this chameleon harassment. Does pick up a couple pigs, but will these cams actually live through it? One of them goes down to the snake poison. The other one will get back out, so yeah, kind of worth. Alright, Meek is in position to move out and close this game. 12 toads here. I love seeing these late game toads. They just pack such a big punch, especially paired with the boar. You just have so much AoE on that boar death when everything's already softened up by the AoE from the toads. Meek is not messing around anymore. Gonna slam in here and try to go 2-0 in this series so far. There it is, Meek with a resounding lead early on. Let's see if Melvin can bring it back in game number 3. Okay, the players are ready. Is Melvin going to change it up? He does a little bit this time around. Spawning up top. Really needing to win here to get back in the series. We've got Melvinfro and his opponent to the bottom right, playing Hopper up 2 maps already in the series. Maxing and relaxing at this point. We've got Meek. And this is where, I mean, obviously this is incredibly stressful, it's a big televised game here. People will be watching these VODs for a while, new players and stuff like that, trying to look to get better. So the stress is on for these players, and I can't understate how important that can be. Just the psychological aspect of this, Think of how different these players are feeling in the series at the moment. Meek is up 2 games. He's living large. He can lose a map or 2 and still be totally okay. If he wins this one, he's on match point. Meanwhile, Melvin this is where the mental fortitude of a competitive player really needs to come in. Melvin needs to keep his head centered. He deserves to be here. He made it all the way to the grand finals. He can definitely beat Meek. He's just got to make some adjustments and figure it out. You know, as long as Melvin doesn't start stressing out or getting a little bit worried, he should be okay. So let's see how Melvin kind of handles this map. You know, quick Warren out of Melvin, just again respecting the fact Meek is known for some aggression. Melvin actually opting for a very, very tier 2 heavy deck this time around. He's probably going to look for a timing. You know, maybe a 2-base push, like right before the boar is finished. And this tier 2 style is very, very powerful. You know, this is the first time we're seeing skunks in this series. Meek playing super greedy here. Melvin actually sold the mill. So Meek said, okay, if we're going to go into 2 bases, I'll just get really ahead. And Melvin was basically trying to pull a fast one, but Meek scattered it out. He knows what's coming, and I'm a bit surprised Melvin is going for the snakes first. I think that's kind of a Melvin thing. Snakes are like his favorite unit. He's very good with the micro on them. But typically at this phase of the game, I think you'd rather have the skunks, since you know the response from Meek is going to be to build a lot of squirrels, and the skunks can of course do quite nicely against the squirrels. But let's see it. Melvin's moving out. He's got the pigeons here to help micro the snake, but no. Just going to decide to go home for now. Keep the tier 1 pushing. Maybe he's going to wait for that second snake to come out and try to get some harassment done. Meek is a little bit ahead on economy, but not by a lot. You know, Meek wanted to go for straight up 4 farms right off the gate, and at least Melvin's fake out prevented that. So Melvin will be just slightly behind on economy, however, does have the tech advantage here, does have the snakes out. But again, snakes' weakness is kind of mass tier 1 here, just being overwhelmed by cheap units that you don't really care if they die. So let's see. Again, Meek is just playing very, very greedy. We see this a lot at high level play. The name of the game in any RTS is more money, less problems. You know, we could talk about fancy micro and counter plays and harassments and splitting armies and backstabs. None of that matters if your opponent just has more money than you. Like, they can have the wrong units and still win. That's how RTS works. So Meek is getting ahead in that regard. Melvin, however, though, wants to probably hit a timing with a lot of tier 2. But I don't know. I feel like this window is closing. You know, Melvin can't trade tier 2 for farms at the moment, I don't think. You know, Melvin just needs to get his own farm counts going and stay on parity here with the economy. And Camp Snake, you know, for tier 2 to have is quite a nice combo. The cams will get up there on the front, you know, tank, deal a ton of damage. The snakes are kind of the micro focus. You're going to be using those to tag specific units. And so far, you know, we're in a little bit of a macro game here. No big engagements yet. Third base coming up for Melvin. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate it. This is an awesome series, and we've got Clan Wars coming up very soon after this. I'll have enough time for a little break, and then we'll head right into the Clan Wars finals. So good day for Tooth and Tail. Yesterday, Kipo streamed the intermediate finals, so check that out as well if you're hungry for some more casted Tooth and Tail action. Boar on the way here for Meek. Is Melvin aware of it? Does not look like it. And I think Melvin has had a hard time really getting those deep scouts off this entire series. And it's a little bit understandable why. You know, Meek is a very aggressive player. I think Melvin is just worried if he runs in, his commander dies, or if he gets out of position, that'll let Meek, you know, come in and attack. Again, we see the chameleons over here set up for a nice little harassment. Looks like Meek just, like, felt something was going on over there, right? Like, really good game sense. Didn't quite stop to try to do a stealth reveal. Here we go. The boar is out. Another big push coming out. Meek utilizing this very high toad count plus the boar to just dominate in these pushes every game. Well, I guess the first game he had the fox, but just so much damage. Punched right at the front. However, this time around, will Melvin clean it up? It looks like it, but the second base is gonna fall to the snake poison. Both sides losing a ton there. Meek actually taking a bit of a cost-ineffective engagement. However, it doesn't matter. The job was done. The second base was destroyed. Melvin is down to scraps at this point. Let's see if Melvin can figure something out. I was actually pretty hyped for Melvin that time around. It looked like the engagement went okay for him, and it did, but the mission was successful for Meek. That second base was destroyed. This is Melvin's last chance to do something. But with Meek having the better economy here, I don't know if Melvin is going to have enough units. He's got to bust through this. He's got to return the favor and knock out that second base, but seeing that boar is probably a tap from Melvin. There it is. Meek up 3-0 in the series here. And again, these players have completely different headspaces at the moment. You know, Meek is living the dream, man. He's 3-0. He can lose the next 3 games and still win the tournament. Melvin has to win every game in a row from now on. And look at this. He's saying, you know what, man? Every map, you are knocking me out with that toad boar. I'm going to do the same to you this time around. Meek, taking a minute to think. Maybe grab a drink or something. I'm super excited. This has been a lot of fun so far. I hope Melvin can bring it back. Yeah, and Meek is just going to start playing with some wonky stuff here. See if he can win with a crazy, interesting strategy. In the bottom left, we've got Meek. And up in the top, Melvinfro. Alright, I did update the scoreboard here, right? Yes, okay. Everything looks good. Okay, so I have actually played against Meek using this deck like a while ago, a couple months ago, I feel like. And very powerful. I think what Meek is going to try to do... Let's see how good the map is for this. It's actually not bad. Meek probably wants to get an artillery cannon somewhere around this cabin. You know, pressure, deny Melvin from ever taking this base. Take these 3 here. And start just macroing up to Owl. Utilizing Fox to kind of harass. Now, Melvin actually did not decide to go with the Toads. Which will be good for this. But I feel like those pushes that Meek won games 2 and 3 with, those Toad boar pushes, were very heavily reliant on the Toads, right? That enormous amount of AoE damage up front from all the Toads blowing up, and then followed by the boar explosion to just finish everything off was working quite nicely. So let's see if Melvin can kind of figure out that this is going to be a radically different game. Now, Melvin has much more of a puncher deck here. He's going to be trying to do basically what Meek did in games 2 and 3, where you get up to like 2 bases, you get the boar out, and you swing. But does he have a good army comp to deal with what Meek would have? Well, at that phase of the game, let's say Melvin moves out, and he's kind of got his boar and a couple tier 2 of, you know, each type that he wants. If he can hit Meek before the Owl production really comes online, maybe the Falcons and the Boar's extra damage to the artillery, plus the Pigeon healing, can kind of get through the artillery cannons. Let's see, it's kind of hard to say. And when your opponent does have Owl, you know, Snake Boar is kind of where you want to be, which is pretty good for Melvin. Just a macro game this time around. Meek's not really showing his hand. Meek is just trying to win with a crazy deck here. Maybe this deck isn't so crazy. A lot of times I call decks crazy, and then I see top players in the chat say, no, Delthius, it's actually like a really strong deck, and you're crazy. And if that's the case, fair enough. But we don't typically see things like Owl Fox or Artillery Cannon in high-level competitive matches. Very, very fast Owl here from Meek, but a Boar at the exact same time. Neither player has scouted that tier 3 of their opponents yet. It was just kind of parallel thoughts here. Melvin is going to come in and see the Owl. Probably going to be pretty happy about it, because the Boar is the unit you need against the Owl, but that's where the Fox comes in. The Fox beats down on the Boar. Owl Fox is a really cool combo because traditionally, I mean, the modern style of Tooth and Tail, where, you know, players started adding in snakes to the mix and that sort of thing, make this a little bit less true. But traditionally, back in the day, it was like Boar Badger was good against Owl, Owl was good against Fox, and Fox was good against Boar and Badger. We got a little bit of lag here, unfortunately. We might need the TOs to chime in. Hopefully this lag does not actually lag all the way out. Come on! Something like this always happens. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, people. There it is. Melvinfro disconnecting. Let me see what the TOs think. I am getting in touch with some TOs to see how we should handle this. I mean, at that phase of the game, it was pretty even. So, in my opinion, it's like, should we just play again? You know, that can't be a good ending. So I'm kind of chatting up some people right now, figuring out how we're going to handle this. Hopefully Melvin's internet didn't, like, just straight up go down. I reached out to both Melvin and Meek, as well as the TOs here. Okay, so I think both players agreed to just redo the match. Yeah. Okay. Okay, yeah. I agree with that. I mean, the game was very early on. Always unfortunate. You know, it stinks we don't have a resume from replay or anything like that, but it is what it is. I don't think it was intentional or anything like that. So everybody's on the same page. We're just gonna go again. GG, the pigs win. Oh man. Good to see everybody, by the way. Hopefully Melvin can start bringing this series back, so we can have some more action against these two titans of Tooth and Tail. But we shall see. In the bottom, hopefully with the internet fixed, we've got Melvin. And his opponent up top. On match point, we've got Meek. Yeah, no, I think it just... That kind of thing happens. I mean, this is an indie game. Melvin is playing in France. Meek is playing in the United States. So we do get some lag when crossing the Atlantic Ocean every now and then. Or maybe Melvin's ISP kind of hiccup for a second. I don't feel like... Uh-oh. A little bit of that lag again. I don't feel like it was ill intent or anything. I don't think Melvin intentionally DC'd or anything like that. Because his position in the game was actually fine. You know, the Fox coming out against the Boar would have stunk for Melvin, but Melvin didn't know that. At that point, it was both players had pretty strong economies. Okay, Melvin scouted the owl coming out, but he had a boar on the way, which is good against the owls, especially in small numbers. So Melvin was in a fine spot as far as he knew. So there would be no reason for him to pull the internet plug to try to draw the match or anything like that. So, plus I wouldn't expect that kind of behavior out of anybody in the Tooth and Tail scene. Everybody, we have a bunch of honorable nerds here. You know, everybody is fairly fairly high integrity competitive players. A quick expansion coming out from Melvin. And Meek gonna follow suit. So not a lot to say just yet. This map is actually kind of cool. I really like this map. It almost looks like a custom map, you know. Both players have an expansion. Yeah, Meek's up on the high ground, which is nice. Melvin is up on the high ground, which is nice. Meek has a little bit of emotes around his expansion, a little bit awkward trying to attack into this. There's a cabin in the middle. We don't see players typically bother to take cabins these days. I mean, it'd be cool to see Meek try to grab that cabin later just to expand the territory, you know, to build an artillery even closer to Melvin's base. And then we've got these 3 mills off to the side over here that are kind of going to go... These are all going to go to one player. You know, I highly doubt we're going to be in a situation where Melvin has this base, Meek has this base, and they can't take each other down. So these are kind of going to be rewarded to whoever has the map advantage when we get to that third base stage of the game, which could actually be sooner rather than later. Again, Meek is going to go for that double tier 3 here. Kind of a risky build if you see a lot of tier 1 and tier 2 out of the opponent, but Meek hasn't seen anything like that. You know, he just saw a couple tier 1, a heavy farm economy, and nothing else just yet. Looking for something here. Probably expect some tier 3 because just the lack of warrens, you know, coming out. And double tier 3 from Melvin as well. Triple tier 3. Okay, this is going to be fun. Now, the owls do good against the fox. The fox is good against the boar. The boar does good against the owls, right? The snake just kind of does good against everything. And the falcons are pretty good. The falcons will probably be the micro unit in Melvin's case. If he actually does commit to falcons, actually sells that off for now to ensure that the tier 3 aren't supply blocked. Here is that artillery cannon coming down for me. Great position for it. Up here on this little platform of high ground that Meek has. Okay, and Melvin is going to start trying to get this third base. Melvin hasn't seen that artillery yet, but in theory, Melvin never really has to bust through here, right? Melvin can just starve Meek out if Melvin ends up getting these 3 bases over the side, but Meek is moving out right now. The owls aren't ready just yet. Here come the mice. The boar taking a couple hits from the fox, but has all the pigeons there to heal it up. And Meek is going to have to pull back. This isn't going to work quite yet. Does end up taking out a couple of those tier 1 warrens on the front, but Melvin not probably super worried about that. Meek moving out again here. Melvin desperately trying to get up the falcons, but that's where the fox would actually shine. If he can get the hits out on the falcons and one-shot them, but the problem with the fox is it's different from the snake, where with the snake, you can just run through the enemy army and try to target down the key unit. Where with the fox, you're more concerned about keeping it alive. And look at this Melvin crushing through. So the point I was making is a lot of these fox shots are going to end up going down on the squirrels, on the mice. Unless Meek wants to commit to targeting down a falcon with the fox, but then the fox would probably die to focus fire from Melvin. So that engagement there is exactly what Melvin needed. Meek gonna run across the base, map just with the Fox here, try to pick off what he can. This is where the second base up on the high ground is very, very nice for Melvin. You know, ideally that Fox is looking for some bacon here, trying to get some pig shots. Oh, Meek is gonna come around, run up the ramp, get a couple pigs. Quite nice. Every time Melvin tries to do a little bit of macro here, throwing down some Warrens, this Fox is in the base, taking out the pigs. Melvin does have this third base up and running, though, which is the important part, but Meek is going to find it. However, if Melvin moves, this might be a dead Fox, but no, Melvin is going to attack. Meek is not in the right position here to micro his units. Oh my gosh, this could be game-ending damage here for Melvin. Meek desperately trying to get back home. These owls go down, though. Trying to focus those owls, the key units. Keep them alive, but it looks like Meek is about to tap. And Melvin here is going to get a point on the board. We got a series now, boys. Okay, 3-1, Melvin managing to get on the scoreboard here with Meek being a little bit ambitious with the Fox plays there and just finding himself out of position for the big attack from Melvin. The owls going down, the artillery going down. Meek's army left completely unmicroed. Now both players are deciding which unit they want for this this critical match here. Will Melvin start the comeback and bring it back here? Let's find out. Hopefully the lag issue gets resolved. It isn't bad. Spawning in the bottom, fresh off a victory. Hopefully in higher spirits now. We've got Melvinfro and his opponent up top. Rocking and rolling out the gate this series. On match point already, we've got Meek. And Meek with a little bit more of a no-nonsense deck this time around. He's got Squizzard. First time we're seeing Lizard in the grand finals. And look at this, like, look at this main base for Melvin. This is the most un-Lizard friendly map spawn I think I've ever seen. Just one entrance, water all around. There's no way you're getting into that main to do some backstabbing. This map is very awkward. Like, there's a lot of mills, but they're very congested here in the middle. You know, I think both players can wiggle out a second base far enough away from each other, but once we start getting into third base and even fourth base, I mean, these territories are going to be touching here. And Melvin does have the barbed wire, which is quite lucky considering this is the game that Meek decided to pull out the Lizards. But this isn't the... Well, actually, if you take into mind these trees everywhere, it won't be hard at all for Melvin to get some nice barbed wire up and running. Melvin with no snakes. Coming out here, gonna poke and prod with just a couple squirrels. Getting some shots off. Ooh, Melvin actually might find himself in a position where he's got more squirrels than the opponent. Meek with a little bit fast of an expansion here. Yeah, Melvin's got the squirrel advantage. If he target fires down, he might be able to snowball this into a victory. The mill is not what you want to be attacking here, but that's kind of all that Melvin can safely hit. He really wants to force an engagement, and Meek is going to come out to defend the mill. I think it would have been better for Meek to just let that mill go. And now Melvin's trying to snowball this into a win. Starts getting some damage onto the Warrens. When these Warrens start falling, this game could be very over very fast, but this Warren just, this mill tanking a ton of damage here, buying Meek enough time to get out his units. And Good job from Meek there. You know, I was worried bringing out the units, but bringing out the units, yeah, he took a cost-ineffective trade, but he does end up keeping the mill alive, so that probably ends up working out in Meek's favor, I guess, if the intent is to get ahead on economy. But Melvin going with some old school 2017 stuff here, man. Like, one base tier 3. And this is actually a map and actually a spawn where he might get away with it. The thing about one base tier 3 is if your opponent scouts it, which it should be pretty easy for them to scout since you're on one base, then they know how to handle it, right? And you're in a bad spot. But if they don't scout it, you can still blindside somebody and still win the game. And this Badger is going to be here before you know it. And this main base is actually very hard for Meek to scout. With Melvin positioning all the squirrels here, Meek knows how important it is to get in here and scout. And he's going to come in and he's going to see the Badger. Incredibly important there, but will Meek have enough time? Is it too late? This Badger is going to be here in like 15 seconds. Desperately trying to get up the snakes, but yeah, that's going to take 40 seconds to get one snake out, or I guess two snakes since he's got two Warrens here. If Melvin goes right when this Badger comes out, this might be a Melvin victory. Let's see. Melvin needs to move out right now. By the time the snakes hit the field, it should be too late. Oh, these mines. Okay, Melvin sees the mines being made. He's going to take a little bit of mine damage, but the Badger is starting to get the rev ups, and the snakes are not here. There are pigeons as well. This might be a Badger victory. He's got to keep the Badger alive. 6 HP. These pigeons finally starting to get the heals on the Badger where it's needed. It can stink when you're in this position and your pigeons are healing the squirrels. Like, damn it, heal the Badger. One snake gets out, gets 2 stacks of poison, but there's so much healing on the Badger. I think it's going to be okay. Oh my god, is Melvin going to win this game with a one-base Badger? Yes, he is. Meek with the tap out. 2-3. Melvin bringing it back here. I'm getting hyped. This is exciting. Are we going to go to game number 7? Oh, that was sweet. One base Badger push, man. And it was the map to do it. That was a really smart call from Melvin. And Meek still knew he had to get the scout, but it was just so hard to get that scout all game long. And by the time that he saw it, it was just too late. Alright, Melvin deciding on the last unit here. Melvin deciding what the last pick will be. There we go. We are hopping into it now. Alright. Spawning in the bottom, starting to make a comeback here. We've got Melvinfro. And his opponent on the top right. Meek, still on match point. Going back to the deck that got him the victories in matches 2 and 3 here. And honestly, I'm quite impressed with this deck for Meek. I need to start playing again. And I might just steal Meek's deck here. Like, I gotta go back to game number 1 and see what he did for the Wolf Fox. Because Wolf Fox is like one of my favorite ways to play, but I know it's not that great compared to other things you could be doing, you know? But I honestly, like, I feel like this deck out of Meek here, very, very powerful. Like, I'm totally a believer now. Those toads in the late game, when you get like 12 or 15 toads, they go in, they soften everything up, they deal a ton of damage, and then you've got the board to just clean it all up, you know? You got the snake in there, the Swiss Army knife unit, kind of good in most situations. Can never really go wrong with Cam Falcon, so I like it a lot. Melvin, this time around, gonna be the guy with the Squizzard. And the Badger Pigeon, actually, you know what? I do like when Melvin's kind of putting down here. I think he might have a bit of a weakness, like a mass Falcon ball in the hyper late game, but I'm not sure if Meek would even go that route. He's got a lot of options for what he wants to do there. But okay, Melvin's got 2 ground tier 1. He's got Squirrel Lizard, which is very important against Toads. You know, when Meek goes for that big all-in push with the Toad Boar later, I would love to see Melvin, you know, primarily on Squirrels, but like with 3 to 6 Lizards, ram the Lizards into the Toads, you know, kind of block for the rest of the army. And Melvin doesn't have a very clumpy army either. There's no like skunks or cams to really group up with the Squirrels. Squirrels do kind of tend to spread out when they can. They try to get concaves. Just naturally around terrain and stuff. Not a whole lot going on in this match just yet. Both players kind of scouting each other out, looking for tier 3s or big, you know, tier 1, tier 2 throwdowns, trying to keep an eye on how many farms the opponent has on the second base. This map pretty even. I think a pretty reasonable 4 mills from both sides here. Even a cabin each if you want to count those. But again, players typically just kind of tend to ignore the cabins. Meek moving out with some squirrels here. Melvin knowing he doesn't quite have enough units to accurately defend this, but Meek's commander going down. That is huge. Meek still has enough units, though, to get some damage in here. Killing a pig, still pretty worth. And all that barbed wire. Barbed wire is dirt cheap, but, you know, 5 or 6 barbed wire that Melvin threw down to try to tank and buy some time. I mean, that's like 2 pigs worth of value there, so. Still a nice, successful attack from Meek. Not game-ending damage or anything. Melvin is still perfectly fine in this match. A little advantage there for Meek, and this is what I'm worried about. You know, this is that Meek push that he saw him win matches 2 and 3 with. Will this kind of roll over Melvin again? Melvin trying to get into Badger Owl. I'm trying to think what you would want against what Meek is doing here. I think you do need that extra tier 1, like the moles or the toads or the lizards, to try to block the toad hits. I don't know. Like, something like a fox actually would be really good against what Meek is doing here. Fox is great against tier 2, great against the boar. I still think the problem with a fox defense against what Meek is pulling out would be Meek is still going to kind of get that initial punch and get a lot of damage done, you know, kill farms, kill a warren or even a mill, but I think the fox would be able to clean up Meek's army and then maybe do like a big counter push, you know. Meek in up to 3 bases though. Melvin does have a 3rd mill of his own, but no farms on it quite yet. Meek is going to come in here, actually get a really good scout. Sees the Badger. Sees that he's ahead on the 3rd base. Yeah, this was what I was worried about earlier. That's interesting Meek is going for it. I feel like I know what I'm talking about. Like, Melvin's composition seems weak to a lot of Falcons, and that's what Meek is going for. Meek actually totally transitioned out of tier 1 completely. Just going to utilize the boar on the front line to tank. But I'm really getting worried about all these Falcons here. You know, the Falcons are going to do great against the Badger, great against the Owl. And Melvin really doesn't have anything that's good against the Falcons. When's the last time Melvin got a big scout out? Okay, knows the boar is on the map. Boar number 2 on the way for Meek. And I love that Meek is just completely out of tier 1. I think that is super smart. Big economies from both sides. Even bigger economy from Meek. Meek is just completely macroed up. 27 farms here for our young American player. Meanwhile, 4 tier 3 from Melvin. Actually, 6. I know how to count, and that is 6. What was that? Is that the mice? I don't know if the game sounds as loud for y'all as it is for me. I just heard some, like, scream sound effect that I don't think I've really heard very often. Melvin finally starting to catch up on farms, but again, just hasn't been able to get in a scout. I don't really blame him at this point in the game, though. It can be hard. Is finally going to get in here and see how far behind he is on economy. But 3 badgers, 3 owls. Come on. That's pretty cap-a-poggers right there. I'm excited, but again, I'm worried about this falcon flock. I think at the end of the day, the falcon flock is going to be what wins it. I mean, 4 falcons can burst down a badger. You know, with this many falcons, I just feel like the tier 3 from Melvin might get deleted. I hope not. I want to see Melvin win this one so we can go to a game number 7. But Meek's going for it. He's not going to wait around any longer. Starting to clear out the barbed wire here. Melvin does not want to commit. He wants to wait until these other tier 3 units he's already bought and paid for hit the fields. Oh man, this is getting good. Now, one thing to note is Melvin has a starvation farm and Meek does not, but there's also this cabin over here Meek can take as a starvation farm if needed. Oh man. I'm excited we kind of got to a big Death Ball army game. We haven't really seen that yet this season, or this series. Let's see Meek. Again, just kind of clearing things out here, getting rid of some of this barbed wire. Is he actually going to hard commit? Meek is moving through, trying to win the championship right here, right now. So much damage out of the Falcons. Only 2 badgers remaining from Melvin that can hit the air, and they all go down, and that looks like it's going to be it. Meek with the mass Falcons here to deal with what Melvin was throwing out. Melvin not with a lot of anti-air. Melvin had a very strong deck, a really cool idea for this match, but his weakness was the Falcon flock, which Meek identified, masked up, swung in for the win. There it is. GG. Meek is your TNT Championship 2021 Premier League Grand Finalist. He is your champion. Congratulations to Meek. Well fought series here. Well deserved victory. And that's really awesome. That was super hype. So I'm seeing if Meek wants to come on, say a few words. Here we go. All right, we're getting Meek on the horn. Meek, how's it going, man?
It's going well.
Congratulations on the big win here.
Thanks. This is, like, aside from like a very recent PBC, my first ever tournament victory over Melvin. He's beaten me for like like a year and a half now in every tournament setting. So this is nice.
This is your first big championship belt too, isn't it? Your first big title?
Yeah, I mean, first season in Premier too. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. So you had a pretty rough group dealing with James, Nightslayer, Necromanticer. How did you like the format this season?
I liked it. I you know, I don't have much to complain about. But no, I enjoyed getting like the double elimination. So because I lost games in both, like in both groups. Like I wasn't the #1 seed either time. So yeah, so it definitely helped me. So I can't complain. I liked it quite a bit.
So games, I think it was games 2, 3, and 6. You had this really powerful like Toad Boar style that I thought was quite awesome. First off, game number 1, you brought out the Wolf Fox, so I was pretty hyped for that, and really smart positioning with that Fox. It ended up kind of winning you the game since Melvin was never able to scout it. But I feel like throughout the tournament, or throughout the series rather, it was really hard for Melvin to get good scouts on you, because every time, at least to me, it felt like every time he would move out with his commander, you were kind of risking an attack where he was out of position.
Yeah, I mean, I do that all the time, just to attack to deny scouting and force them to go home. Uh yeah, I stuck with the boar deck because it's not my style. It's not something I play very often, but it's been beating me in a lot of games. So I was like, you know what, it must work. So I said I'll take it in my tournament setting.
Yeah, I was saying, I'm a little rusty. I haven't played in a little bit, but I might hit the ladder with that deck because I mean, it just looks so strong. You get the toads, you get like 12 or 15 toads up front to just blow everything up, and then the boar bomb finishes everything off. And I think it was game 2 or 3 where the boar bomb was just insane. Like you hit like literally this whole army, and I think when players are going for very very heavy tier 2 styles, all that massive AoE gets so much better, because the tier 2 tends to stack up with the tier 1 in like one big clump.
Right. Yeah. My style has been pretty. It doesn't do too well on Melvin. I like to do a lot of poking and a lot of Fox micro, a lot of like I like low economy games. I don't really like going past 3 base.
Right.
But that's kind of Melvin's style. He really likes to hunker down and hold down, defend, and then push with a big army. And if he just holds my pokes, then I end up behind and I get rolled later. So I had to kind of play more his style, I thought, and it worked out.
Yeah, I mean you're really aggressive. So what's your take on moles? Do you think they're just not in a good enough spot, fortunately, to
Moles are in a terrible spot. I like the game more with weaker moles.
I agree.
I think moles are more is viable.
Right.
But I think next patch they should do something to it because it's definitely like I take it sometimes.
Yeah.
And if you catch someone off guard, like by surprise, then I think that's great. But I don't quite think it's good enough right now.
Yeah, and I wanted your take on it because I know you're one of the more aggressive players, but I totally agree. I prefer the meta where a unit is kind of bad rather than a unit is like an auto include in every single game because it's just so powerful,
Yeah.
So that was sweet, man. So you went up 3-0, and you're probably feeling pretty good. I saw you whipping out the artillery there. The artillery Owl Fox, I think it was. Were you kind of memeing, or do you think that's a really strong, viable deck? Or I mean, you're up 3 games of the series. You can kind of do whatever you want at that point.
I don't think it's the strongest deck. The build order I like to do. It was because he was teching early on me that I wanted to play it, because he was going into tier 2 really quick, and typically against someone who does that, I'll take an arty. And the moment they drop their tier 2, I'll put a very forward arty down, and then it'll build, and then I'll go Fox right after that.
Right.
But the map was too big. I couldn't get any aggression. Fox would have been terrible there anyway. It proved. I wasn't expecting the owl. I was expecting badger or boar. So boar owl kind of put a monkey wrench in my plans.
Yeah. The what was I gonna say? Okay, the games where you lost, I feel like they were both for really important reasons, especially for someone trying to learn the game or take the game more seriously. The first loss was the 1 base tier 3 from Melvin, and I don't think Melvin intended doing that before he saw the map gen, but when he realized how easy it was to deny that scout, there's only one entrance in there, putting the squirrels. I mean, I saw you time and time again try to get in there and scout, but you just kept getting blocked by the units, and you finally saw that badger, but it was just a little bit too late.
Oh yeah, I did a double take when I saw the badger. I mean, I saw the typically when the second I saw the pigeons, I should have known, right?
Right, and actually, somebody pointed that out in chat. Somebody, I think it was Tosh, who was saying Melvin should have hid the pigeons, and I thought that was really smart.
Yeah, typically the second I see pigeons, I'm like, oh, they're going badger. But for some reason, like he had so much aggression on me, it didn't click that he could still afford that. Like I thought he was like on squirrel only, and I don't know. I did a complete double take when I saw the badger.
Yeah, and your response was spot on. Obviously, the double snake, but you just didn't have enough time. And
I got down to 6 health too.
I know. I honestly, I thought the mines were really really clever. And those mines probably would have won you the game if you built them like slightly earlier, because Melvin like saw a few of those mines like finishing building, so he knows the other mines are there. You know what I mean? But if he had no idea that minefield was there, that might have been that extra 6 points of damage on the Badger. And then the last one, it's just a classic. This can happen to anybody. You know, Melvin attacked your main army while you're out and about harassing with the Fox, and you know when one player gets the micro and the other one doesn't, it's pretty straightforward from there. So
I think I was dead by then anyway. Like I didn't think I could keep taking straight up engages. So yeah, I think he had me. And rallying my units was also a mistake. I didn't process that my owls would run through his army.
Right. In that last game, you made a really smart decision to mass up Falcons. That was definitely the weakness of Melvin's army, was the lack of anti-air.
Did he not have Falcons in his deck?
No, he didn't have Falcons. He only had like Squirrel and Badger that could shoot up, and I mean Badgers get deleted by Falcons pretty quickly. So
yeah, I was like halfway through when I saw the wire, I was like, okay, this is probably triple tier 3. Turned out to be double, and I was like, okay, that's not outside what I expected. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna 4-base, and when I went up on the mill, and then I scouted again, and he had put wire down to seal off his other 2 bases, which like to me signifies he's not gonna push in when his first 2 tier 3 pop.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I'm already on the eco lead. I'm gonna 4-base and like forget starving you out. I'm just gonna push on 4-base when you're behind. And like two scouting cycles later, I got to scout his whole army. I didn't die, and he had no Falcons. I'm like, did you sack Falcons to get like to fit your second tier 3 slot?
Yeah.
So then I just masked it and pushed.
Yeah, another good thing about that match as well was you were basically like 1 base up the entire time when they got into 3 and 4 bases. You know, I think Melvin throughout the series had a really hard time scouting you, and I think that had a lot to do with your victories. And I mean, information in RTS is so critical. So
no, absolutely. That deck in particular, it's a brute force deck for sure.
Yeah, it looks really fun.
Yeah, honestly. It's hard. It's you have to play accurately.
Right.
And I think I've been playing that deck, like against that deck for like a month, 2 months now, so I kind of know it enough so that I think I would be able to respond. But like seeing it for the first time, it took me like a couple weeks to wrap my head around. Oh, like this is like just a 1-push monster.
What do you think the right response is to that Boruto? I was kind of thinking Fox. Like the Fox isn't gonna help against that initial slam, but I think the Fox would really clean up, you know, after the fight. Or what do you think?
Fox with defenses, getting a really good concave has worked for me. So spreading your units, and when they push, getting this around with mines.
Probably Falcons too.
Yeah, I mean a lot of things work. You just have to be on your toes.
Right.
And suspect like the 2-base bore. Like you just have to be prepared. Triple tier 3, if you can kite for long enough, it works too. You just have to like be ready for the timing. Like the 2-base push, which is usually what happens.
A 2-base board push has been a staple in Tooth and Tail bag of builds since day one initially. So you've been playing for about a year now. It says on your nameplate March 2020. So what got you into the game?
I saw Clash of Comrades. I would see the Clash of Comrades videos, and I was like, those are so cool. And Tooth and Tail was one like the first. It was on sale. I got it, and like I was like, heck yeah. And then from then on, it became, I don't know, my favorite RTS. So that's what I played.
Yeah, Clash of Comrades were great, man. AV Ultima, Best Team Maker, all those guys were really, really strong. Like in the alpha, beta stages, right when the game launched. Phenomenal videos. If y'all haven't heard of Clash of Comrades, definitely go check them out on YouTube. But I think that's about it. We got Clan Wars coming up in like 45 minutes. Any final words you want to say now that you're champion?
No, I have no final words. Really, I'm out of breath. I didn't think this would go as smoothly as it did. So, fight me on ladder.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, man. Well-deserved victory there. And I think it's awesome. I've seen you since you're more recent of a player. Like I remember beating you on the ladder a lot. Now I probably couldn't take a map off you, so it's really cool to see you go from like starting out to being the champion so quickly. So congratulations again, man.
Thanks, man.
All right, take it easy. And I think that is it for the stream. I will be back pretty shortly. At 1 o'clock, we are going to do the Tooth and Tail Clan Wars. Don't forget the next installment of the Gentleman's 21 Duels, the 2021 Duels, is underway at the moment. We've had a couple episodes already cast. Episodes 1 through 3 by Tosh and Tandor Draco. Episode 4 and 5 are coming up next week. I might do I might do episode 5. I'm not sure. That's another really fun event. So as this event is wrapping down, that's what I love about the scene. There's always stuff going on. So Tooth and Tail Championship wrapping up now. Big shout out to everyone who participated, of course, all the different streamers. I think there might be a bronze match. I'm not 100% on that, but you know, guys like Dizon, Epicosity, Kipo, Marmu, killing it for the scene. I mean, this is the #1 most important thing you can do to keep Tooth and Tail healthy and active is create these events, participate in these events, you know, cast stuff on Twitch. It doesn't matter, anybody can cast. We encourage as many people to stream as possible. Like, it is so good for Tooth and Tail to always have somebody streaming on Twitch. I'll always have events for players to get into. And I think the scene is doing really awesome right now. I'm super happy about it. So yeah, TNT Championship is wrapping up. This is kind of an ongoing season style of an event though. So we will probably see Season 2 of 2021 at some point in the not too distant future. Of course, TNT Clan Wars is wrapping up as well. We've got Toad Road Gang versus Lizard Wizard Magic coming up in about 45 minutes. So if you're hungry for some more Tooth and Tail action, you don't have a long time to wait. In the meantime, go over to Kipo's channel and check out the intermediate match from yesterday if you're hungry for some more action. But ladies and gentlemen, that is it. I'm going to wrap it up. Congratulations to Meek. Congratulations to Melvinfro for taking the silver. You know, also quite a big achievement there. And again, like, look at these nameplates. Both these players so young, so good at the game, and it's awesome. Melvin plays a caps lock on. Mad Lad says stretch, so that kind of made me chuckle. All right, everybody, I will catch you all pretty shortly. Just gonna take a little break, and we'll be back soon.